Okay. Shall we do 10 minutes of meditation as before? Previously, we will do some meditation.
Sure. Charles, are you okay to lead the meditation or?
I can lead the meditation. Let me time this for a short 10-minute, right? Okay, back straight. Close your eyes. Bring your mind home. Bring your mind home. Bring your mind home. Let go. Let go. Let go. Relax. 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 Breathe in, feeling your breath through your tip of your nose, through your chest, through your abdomen, and out the opposite way, through your abdomen, your chest, the tip of your nose. Continue doing this. Through your nose, chest, breath, out the opposite way. As you're more settled, the breath becomes more shallow, and let it hover around the nose, feeling the in-breath, the out-breath through the tip of the nose, the in-breath through the tip of the nose. Not controlling the breath. You are an observer. Be aware of the breath. Do not control your breath. Do not give any energy to the breath. You are an observer of the breath. Moving in, moving out. If your mind is distracted by bodily discomfort, bring it back to the tip of your nose again. That is where you purge your mind. Any tension on your body, your mind is brought there. Bring it right back to the tip of your nose again. If there's any discomfort that knocks you again and again, then you move to the discomfort and give the discomfort a feeling, call it a feeling, and let it float around. Do not hang on it. Give it a name. It will be there. It is floating around. Do not give it any energy. When you're settled, go back to the tip of your nose again. Wherever you hear, your mind tends to go. Bring it back to the tip of your nose again. Gently, with your breath, reminding you where the tip of the nose is. It is okay, as you become more relaxed, not to feel any breath at all. It's only natural sometimes. If you do not feel any breathing, just put your mind at the tip of the nose. There is some very, very subtle breath if you are calm enough to feel. Whatever you may feel, sometimes you may see lights, configuration of lights. Just give it a name. Do not be attached. Do not judge. Just give it a name, light. And watch it float like clouds passing a clear sky. And when it's calm enough, touch your breath at the tip of the nose again. You rise gently out of the meditation. Think of it as if you have an injury, you have a fractured skull. You have to handle your state of your bodily posture, your skull, you have an injury. Handle it gently and maintain this state as long as you can. With a few blinks, open up your eyes.
Thanks so much, Charles, for leading us in the meditation. Now I'll load up the slides. Give me a minute.
For those who just joined us, we will have a technical break at 7:45 to cheer for our own Shanti Pereira for a 200-meter dash. Not because she will win a medal, okay, but because she will win a medal. Yeah.
Okay, can you all see the slides?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, so while Guan Hui is loading up the slide, maybe I can start talking from here. Welcome, everyone.
Sorry, Brother Charles, you can see the slides or?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, can. Great. Okay.
Welcome, Hui Wen, Guan Hui, Jit Kong, Rachel, Kathleen, Hui Hui, Professor Lee, Professor Wong, Gerald, Kai Ping, Rong Hui, Selvi. Okay, we've got quite a crowd to cheer for me and to cheer for Shanti. This book, The Book of Joy, is actually a project by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, where they meet for 1 week because they feel the urgency to deliver this message of joy so that the general population of the world might have some guidance, even if it's secular. They put it in a very, very secular way to find joy, and hopefully this little bit contribute to peace and decrease suffering in the world before these two icons of spiritual leadership ends their life. Sadly, Archbishop Desmond Tutu is no longer with us. I think he passed on last year, I think, or 2 years ago. And this His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right now he is, I think he's 84 years old. So they see an urgency. The person who writes their book is this person by the name of Douglas Abrams. He is a book editor, a book agent, and he is also spiritual inclined. He knows quite a lot about Buddhism. He knows quite a lot. He followed Archbishop Desmond Tutu in various talks and his teachings. In the book, questions will be posed by the author to the Dalai Lama and Archbishop. And there is another third segment, which is the scientific evidence of joy, which Douglas Abrams will provide. I will not bring this up because I feel these things you all can read about it. And also, I feel that usually the scientific evidence of joy follows what the spiritual leaders and religions already know. The theory of any mechanism of any disease usually follows long way after the cure is known. You all would have known it, why certain cure work, the mechanism of all these are all hypotheses. So if you're interested, you can go on to read the book. This book, another part of it is actually made in a movie. It's called Mission Joy. This one is called The Book of Joy. I think it's downloadable somewhere by streaming. When it was only after medical school that I started realizing the benefit of speed reading. And in speed reading, one of the things should have learned more about speed reading. Should have done a lot of speed reading in university or even before that. One of the basic approach to speed reading is that before you approach any book, you must have an aim in mind. And when you have an aim in mind, you absorb the book much better. And I find one of the best ways to approach this book is, well, since you got two icons of two different religions together, what better way is to have thoughts on comparative religion. How these two different iconic religious leaders approach the problem of looking for joy in the world. And with this approach, the absorption may be much better. Before we go on, can we just go through the audience on what is their background knowledge of the Dalai Lama, Tibet, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and South Africa. Of course, we can have Professor Wong who's an expert on this to summarize everything. Okay, first on the list, can we have So Pin? So that we have a background of what is the knowledge, then perhaps when during the talk we can pitch based on the audience. You see, I usually like to do that. So Pin, what do you know of the Dalai Lama, Tibet, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and South Africa?
Okay, I know that the Dalai Lama is the leader of one of the major schools of Tibetan Buddhism, but I'm not very sure exactly which school. And then I know that Tibet is a majority Vajrayana nation that sort of got conquered by China in the 60s or 70s, and that was why the Dalai Lama got exiled to India. Then for Desmond Tutu, actually I'm not very familiar with him. I know that I think probably that he also got into some trouble with the authorities for opposing the apartheid regime in South Africa. And I think it was only after that apartheid was abolished that he became free from jail or something. Yeah, that's about how much I know.
Okay, thank you. Wei Wen, anything to add?
Actually, not much. Don't know much about Desmond Tutu. I only watched a video of the two of them, and then that's about it.
Oh,
And Dalai Lama,
this particular Mission Joy, is it?
I'm not sure, but I watched a video of Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu like talking each other.
Oh,
Then they are like, yeah, quite close, I guess.
okay.
And I think Dalai Lama is the leader of the yellow hat Tibetan lineage. Yeah. Yeah, actually I don't know much
Okay, all right.
for Desmond Tutu.
Okay. Guan Hui, anything to add?
Hey, hi. Sorry, actually nothing much to add. I don't really know much about Desmond Tutu.
Okay. Hui, anything to add?
I know he's a Nobel Prize winner in the 80s. And he contributed to non-violent ways of liberating South Africa from the apartheid. But I don't really know how. Yeah. So I feel like between them, there are some similarities in how like political differences in the country have like contributed to their spiritual growth. How I see it.
Okay. Rachel?
My camera is not working. I think I know as much as Suobing. I think they were both from very oppressed countries. So the Dalai Lama, they were oppressed by China, and Desmond Tutu's appetite. So I think that's about it. And I think I miss Mission Joy from the Buddhist Film Festival because I was at church. But I think I think they are both very happy religious leaders making fun of each other, even their followers are not. That's all.
Okay. Cheng Chuan, anything to add?
And no, I'm very stressed now.
Okay.
Don't have. Yeah.
Okay. Gerald, anything to add?
No, I think my knowledge about as much as Chopin's, yeah, on the two of them.
Okay. Kai Ping? Rong Hui? Selvi?
Hi, hello. Yeah, sorry, I'm out now, but nothing much. I just remember that Desmond Tutu is like some theologian as well, right? Yeah, so some very staunch Christian.
Okay. Sounds Christian. Okay. Okay. Selvi?
Not much, Brother Charles. Coming here to learn more from you.
Okay. All right. Got future. Got future. Okay. Rong Hui? Jikong?
Hey Charles, hi. Yeah, so actually I read the book lah. So yeah, I think it's a really mischievous book lah, as they mentioned quite a lot of times. Yeah, so Desmond Tutu is the Archbishop. He worked with Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Very unifying figure over there. Both the white and the blacks all supported him lah. I mean, especially after they managed to abolish apartheid. But what is more important is that despite all the difficulties, both him and the Dalai Lama really worked through very difficult times, but they are very optimistic and happy people at heart. So I thought, yeah, it's a very good read after reading through.
Okay. Thank you. We will have Professor Wong Wing Fai to summarize everything.
No lah, nothing lah. Go ahead with your talk. Hey, 7:45 already, friend.
Wait for you to summarize first lah.
No. Nothing to say.
You wait for you one. Anything to add?
No.
No.
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay. So before we go to Shanti, so maybe I summarize everything. So both are Nobel Prize laureates. Both have gone through a lot of oppression, like what some of you all did. The Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. One is oppression from China, one's oppression from the whites, Boers government, and both has risen out of so much suffering to be so joyful still, and they have contributed their lives to it. We will have a technical break now to go on to support Shanti Pereira before we come back to the book again, Ken? Okay? All right. We keep this Zoom on. This Guan Hui will project his home television, his LED 10,000 meter wide television on a screen, and we'll share.
Let me try. No, let me try and see if I can actually project the actual thing, because I think my TV quality probably not good. Okay, anyway, yeah. Okay, so I'll just briefly stop share for now and then see if I can connect it to the Me Watch thing. Okay.
Wow, we are pretty serious about our commercial breaks here, huh?
Charlene, welcome.
Hey, sorry, Shanti is doing what race now?
Sir,
What Shanti is running for which event now?
200 meters final.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Eh?
Well, this Guan Hui is a technical wizard.
Can you all see? Actually, I don't know if you all can see.
We can see. But there's we're on the Me Watch. Hey,
Does it load? Because I can't see.
Nope,
uh,
yeah, blank.
It's a blank screen, is it?
blank screen.
Yeah, the video itself is like blank, but we can see your channel 5 screen.
Just zoom in onto your camera. Is it possible? Onto your TV?
Let me try and show my hand. Wait, give me a minute. Sorry.
I suspect it could be like a security function on the Watch website where
Yeah.
you share screen, you just cannot see what they're playing. It could be.
Is it loading on your side?
Is it loading?
Is it, are you able to watch the video? Or
Okay,
is it just
you can watch my
Watch your TV.
phone. Yeah, you can watch my handphone screen because my TV is a bit
Okay.
can you see my handphone? I don't know. Wait, give me a minute. I can't even go to my handphone.
Yeah, actually your handphone is pretty clear. You can pin it.
It's very clear. It's very clear.
Screen.
She's ready to run really.
Yeah, you can stop share and then pin your own screen.
At least we can view our own screen on Me Watch.
Okay, can. Sorry.
She's running already, like.
Yeah, she's running already.
Oh dear.
Oh, she's leading. She won, right? Yeah. Oh, she won.
She got gold, eh?
Yeah, she won. Yeah, she got gold.
Okay, all right.
That's all we need to know.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a very strong win, no? My God.
Can I just add that So Rui Yong, I think, probably would have scored really well too if he was representing.
Okay.
He was from my year actually. In,
From your year.
JC. Yeah, it's from my year in JC. But he was not allowed to represent Singapore. Bit sad.
Okay, that was a very strong win. Okay, now we go back to.
Yep. Sorry for the technical glitch.
Okay.
No, it doesn't show.
Screen again. Sometimes I feel all these athletes, they can train so much blood, sweat, and tears to have everything concentrated within 15 seconds. Anything can go wrong. So cruel. The world is so cruel. What they're doing, self-suffering for our enjoyment. Okay, coming back. Sorry for this aside thing.
Sorry, can you all see the slides? Is the correct slides, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, can.
Okay, so adding on to what I said about these two iconic leaders, despite all the sufferings that the oppressors has been imposing on them, the bitterness and the way they lead their followers out of it is not leading them out of a sense of hatred and vengeance and an offensive manner. In fact, like what Rong Hui said, Archbishop Desmond Tutu had to lead forgiveness and reconciliation commission, whereby the people who actually literally could have killed and tortured some of the sons of the Black Africans are there facing the parents in a peace and reconciliation event whereby everybody will pour out all their grievances. A lot of tears, a lot of shouting, and sometimes if it's successful, is forgiveness. The Dalai Lama, despite the oppression of his people, he is out of his country for 58 years. He lost his country. And he hear of his friends and his compatriots allegedly tortured in the gulags of China. But yet, we do not quite see any tinge of hatred and bitterness. In fact, the message that he drive is actually that of peace, and politically he was even wanting to offer China, politically speaking, that he would be quite happy to accept self-government in Tibet. But that is politics. The approach of the book is we will draw similarities, next slide, and differences in interactions and response to the next slide. We will draw similarities and differences in interactions and response to question posed by the author to these two leaders. From the very beginning, when the author was talking, was the differences and similarities between these two leaders, was that he observed that these two religious leaders had very long hours of practice every day. The Dalai Lama has about 4 hours or 5 hours of meditation every morning. He wakes up at about 3 to 4 a.m. and then he'll practice meditation until about 7 to 8 a.m. Archbishop Desmond Tutu also has his meditation. He wakes up a bit later. Instead of 3 a.m., I think it's about 4 a.m. And then he says he will meditate, or rather prayers, some form of meditation, I believe, for about 3 hours or so. Perhaps I try to follow, but cannot. Usually I am of the opposite. I like to sleep late and drag as much in bed as possible. But perhaps this is the way to good practice, whereby you actually start your day clearing up your mind. But having said, these leaders, these two men, they are not deprived of sleep. They don't sleep late. Both of them apparently sleep about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And therefore, waking up about 7 p.m., sleeping about 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then they wake up at 3 a.m., it is quite achievable. Perhaps this is the way to a religious life. I think our Buddhist monastics, we also tend to do this, right? And in our urban living, we tend to do it the opposite way. Because in young people, the science say the mind is always most active 12 midnight, most productive, right? In their interaction with each other, Archbishop Desmond Tutu posed one question to the Dalai Lama. So they were just talking about the situation, about how China opposes him, and how China, because of China's influence on South Africa actually denied the Dalai Lama a visa to visit South Africa on Archbishop Desmond Tutu's birthday. And Archbishop Desmond Tutu was complaining, and he was asking the Dalai Lama a direct question. See, with all these happenings, some background noise that we and is there some background noise?
Yeah, I think it's Guan Hui.
Guan
Okay,
Hui, you mute.
done.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Archbishop Desmond Tutu asked the Dalai Lama one question: why are you not morose? Of course, Dalai Lama had to ask what's the meaning of morose. So they say, why are you not sad with all these things happening in your life? You're an exiled person, you're an exiled leader, your people are back home in Tibet, and then you are in Dharamsala. A few points that the Dalai Lama said that take him out of his morose state was 4 points that I like to bring it up here, is that there is a difference between compassion versus comparison. One of the things I learned in psychological books of getting out, when I counsel patients, of getting out of depression or morose state, is when you feel that you're in a bad place, go visit somewhere worse than you. The other day I was counseling a nurse, a little bit burnt out. So I was saying, perhaps you're at Changi General Hospital, you walk over to the geriatric ward and see. You feel that you are not in so much a bad place after all. And then if you're an SGH, you walk over to the burns unit to see. Because you are in uniform, you can just go. The comparison between people less well off than you sometimes get you out of a morose state. Archbishop Desmond Tutu did say, if you want to feel rich, go mix with the poor. If you want to feel poor, you go mix with the rich, right? So it's a matter of comparison. But the Dalai Lama said this, this is one way of taking yourself a moral state. But his way is more that of practice of compassion, whereby to each and everyone, even the people who oppress him, who cause him trouble, he will identify, he will see in it, these people in a meditative state, that these sentient beings are also people who are in suffering state, in a state of suffering, and at every moment of their life are looking for joy, looking for ways to have joy for their children, for their own physical self, for their own mental state. They are always looking for ways to have joy. Then with that, they can identify with this person, he can identify this person. And whatever achievement this person has, it is him able to feel joy as a result. Therefore, there lies his practice of compassion, that the people who surround him are suffering. Like him, he identifies with them. And when they find joy, he will feel the joy also. That is the internal development, as very, very much the trend line seems to be in the Dalai Lama's way is the development of his internal self, his compassion, whereas in psychological, there will be comparison of your surrounding. The second way of him handling himself out of a morose state would be that he feel that out of all the things that has happened to him, being exiled out of Tibet and in a foreign land, and hearing that his people suffer, then the little children in Tibet got to make their way all the way from Tibet to Dharamsala in order to have a Tibetan upbringing still. He said that
It's okay. It's okay.
he said that despite all this happening, there are positive that arises out of the negative. That means it is because of his exile that he's able to reach out to more people in the world. This is the positive that has arises out of the negative. And also, ironically, the invasion of China upon Tibet has brought a lot of Tibetan teaching out of Tibet. If not, the teachings, Tibetan Buddhism is a little bit esoteric. Sometimes it doesn't quite it's not quite brought up to the world. And it is, I feel that it is because of the invasion of China that a lot of Tibetan teachers come out of Tibet. We have so many Tibetan Buddhist knowledge, their approach to Buddhism that we can learn today. Indirectly, thanks to the invasion of China. Well, that is the irony of life. Positive arises out of negative. Point 2. Point 3, how we have okay, there's some noise in the background. Okay, all right. The third point, the third method which he sees, his perspective of how he get out of his moral state, he bring up the story of physical pain versus response to pain. He was quoting the Salatha Sutta, the story of the two arrows. It's like, you kena hamtam already, you know. It's like there is already the physical state of him suffering already. Let him not respond in a very emotional way to add to the pain of groaning, of lamenting, after the physical pain has been imposed on him. The analogy is that of two arrows. You get shot by one arrow, you feel the pain. You are not going to blame the person for shooting you with an arrow. You're not going to be emotional about it. You're not going to scream and be very angered by it. But you just accept that there's an arrow in your thigh, and accept that there's one arrow, and you just feel the physical pain without the response to the emotional pain. You see the 3 points. Usually it's quite internal. It's the perspective. Compassion is how you develop yourself. Positive arises out of negative. It's more the perspective. The Salatha Sutta is also the internal development of the response to pain. But Archbishop's response is, nothing beautiful comes out without suffering. The suffering is unavoidable. Yes, correct. That is dukkha. But they feel that it is out of the suffering that a beautiful thing arises. He quotes 2 examples. One would be that of Nelson Mandela, who he was about maybe 50 years in Robben Island, imprisoned by the white government. When he went into prison on Robben Island, he went in as an offensive leader, as an armed leader. They were planning armed revolt against the white authorities. However, throughout his imprisonment, he changed to that of non-violence. And when he came out, he was the ideal leader to lead Africa out of its apartheid regime in a, well, there's still violence, but in as least violent way as is achievable. And what he's saying is that because of that, of his suffering, something beautiful arises from it. And Archbishop also quote that a mother belabored by a child coming, the child's coming, went through the pain of labor. And after 23 hours of labor, a beautiful newborn child is parked by her side, and she can nurse a child and say that is beauty that arises out of suffering. So that seems to be the approach that the Archbishop's Christian approach to how he get himself out of suffering, is that the suffering has a meaning. But the Buddhist way seems to be we have to practice internally. There lies the slight difference. The pattern of approach to how you find joy seems to be in that line throughout this book. Next slide, please, Guan Hui. The difference in that of Desmond Tutu's approach and Dalai Lama's approach is the control of emotion. I don't know Archbishop would represent the Christian approach there. Their approach is that emotions cannot be controlled. The emotions will arise, and it is you giving up your pain, your emotion to Christ, and emotions will come in. But the Dalai Lama, which is, well, maybe is our Buddhist approach, is that emotions can be controlled. There lies the difference. The Dalai Lama quoted a story of how when he was in pain, a feeling of compassion actually was able to release his pain of, he had acute cholecystitis, meaning his gallbladder was infected while he was traveling, and he was actually due for surgery. While traveling with in the car, with every movement of the car, he felt the pain. But on the streets, he saw an aged beggar, I think without legs, suffering, looked very disheveled. He suddenly felt that he felt the suffering of this particular old person, what he has to go through every day. And by feeling his pain and suffering, and he was wishing him well out of his suffering, throughout the journey, he felt that his pain level in his right upper abdomen actually decreased as a result. This is an anecdotal thing. Of course, in the book, there will be some scientific analysis as a third person approach to the seeking of joy. Next slide, please. Throughout the book, I find the Dalai Lama speak more than the Archbishop, partly because maybe the event was held in Dharamsala, the Dalai Lama was the host. So Dalai Lama would speak more. And maybe because the Buddhist approach, there are more methods to handle joy, whereas the Christian approach there is more a faith, more giving out the pain. One of the Dalai Lamas, he has this two vocabulary, which perhaps give us quite a paradigm shift. You look in the slide, the difference between wise selfishness versus foolish selfishness. He said that it is better to practice wise selfishness. How do you practice wise selfishness? Instead of everything I, trying to get material gains, but by wishing and be concerned about other people, we are actually being selfish indirectly. So if we wish joy ourselves, the way to seek for joy is to be wise about it by wishing joy and practicing concern for other people, versus that of foolish selfishness, whereby you are selfish because you want to get joy, but the foolish joy is to get the material things of other people. There lies the difference. So the very oxymoronic phrase that is listed in number 1, that of wise selfishness. If you want to be selfish, it is better to practice in a wise way than selfish, but selfish in a foolish way. Selfish and foolish way means getting something from others. Wise selfishness means concern for others. And indirectly, you are benefiting yourself, right? So those who are practicing compassion are actually selfish people, the most selfish people in the world, right? Okay. The paradox of Buddhism, he would say, is it foolish selfishness to focus on our own joy? If all the time we are focusing on our own joy, everything it is foolish selfishness, because in the end it will bring more suffering than joy, as opposed to wise selfishness. Just as a note to this, one of the studies that they quote is that the people, if you notice that there's some rather toxic people around. Maybe toxic is quite a judgmental word, but people who tend to go into depression, you'll notice that those whom I counsel, who come to my clinic and counsel, who are depressed, who are anxious, who have OCD, cannot sleep, they use the word I more often than the word we and the word you. It's always I. It's always I. You just measure these people. The scientific evidence will point, one of the scientific studies they quote is that the more the person use the word I, perhaps that is an indicator of the tendency to depression. Therefore, if you want to find joy, use more of the word we, you. How are you doing? How are you doing? We shall do this, instead of I, and I. So this one runs into the Dalai Lama's approach on wise selfishness versus that of foolish selfishness. Next slide, Guan Hui. Okay, we come nearly to the end. This is halfway through. This is slide number 5. In between the book, of course, the book is took some time for me to finish. I actually went through the book twice because of this talk. Okay. In between, there'll be stories of them visiting Tibetan schools in Dharamsala, whereby you got little children whose parents even push them to strangers to send them from Tibet through the Himalayas to India, so that the children can be brought up in a Tibetan culture, and all the very sad stories. Some of the stories here, when I read, can cry on it. I read like twice. I cried twice when the certain segments of hearing how the children's ordeal, the ordeal in going through from Tibet to Dharamsala. So in between there'll be all these stories, but as you read the book, you will read the stories. A large part would be the approach to the joy, and a large part dealt with this topic on envy, dealing with envy. Both of them do agree that envy has brought about a lot of war and unhappiness in the world. As stated on the slide, comparison is human, even beyond human. Even the animals, they compare, right? Animals also compare, right? It is natural in the animal world. The things that we tend to compare ourselves to people in our social circle, with our immediate social circle, with our contemporary, with our classmates. But I do not compare myself with with Bill Gates. I do not compare myself with the wealth of Warren Buffett. I do not compare myself with the wealth of the Temasek Holdings people, all right? But we tend to compare with people who are immediately around us. You as you're in the doctoring circle, if junior doctors, you all don't compare with the senior consultants, your income, right? You tend to compare yourselves with people who are immediately higher and lower than you. How do you approach envy? Perhaps at this point of time, we will bounce back to the audience. Envy is, I think, something that I don't know about you, but I do deal with. And we can go through the audience and ask, before we seek their formula, let us just go through the audience, how you approach envy. Henry? Hi, Henry. Are you there? Okay. Hui Wen, how do you approach envy in your day-to-day?
I think maybe I will ask myself like why I feel envious of someone. Maybe is it because like I don't feel intense like with what I already have. But sometimes if it's something that like for example you say about the pay, right? If it's something that I feel that I deserve, then maybe it's something which I should fight for it myself. Or like at least find ways to get what I want rather than, like just focusing on negativity. Maybe I can ask that person like, oh, how did you manage to achieve this? Like, oh, what did you do to get here? Yeah, so that I can actually get what I want more, rather than like being negative about it.
So you have jumped the gun in my little shop. It's actually Archbishop's method number 3. He used it as a motivation. Okay. Okay, Guan Hui, how do you deal with envy?
Okay, so for me, I think that I usually I don't compare myself with other people. I also try not to compare. Normally what I do is, I mean, if someone is doing like say better than me or what, I'll just feel happy for them. So I think that like we are all different. I compare to each of us like a hand of like poker or something like that. So everyone starts off with a different set of cards. So then you cannot compare your set with someone else's because the starting point is different. So like I just compare like myself with myself. So like for example, this year am I better than last year? If I am, then I'm quite happy. Yeah, I'm quite I'm not that how to say like I don't like I don't compare that kind. Yeah.
This one very 要得到了这个。
No, it's just maybe too lazy to compare.
Wing Fai, how you handle envy? Teach me, eh? Or you don't have people usually envy you, right? Not the other way around.
No lah. No. I mean, sympathetic joy is one of the, to me, the hardest of the four Brahma Vihara to practice. So I think there is a instinct in us to drive this envy because it's our survival instinct, and but we have to fight against the stream because it's not productive at all, and we should sort of always learn to value what we have, and learn to using envy as a motivation is good, is one possible step, but when to be very careful about envy turning into even more negative, like hatred or negative feelings towards another party. That's even worse. Envy hurts ourselves, but if it turns into a negative feeling against another party, it's even worse. That's my humble opinion. As to how, I think as with all negative emotion, it can be a negative emotion. You have the Buddha gave the various recipe on how to handle negative emotions. It's applicable as well.
Okay, thank you. Hui, how you deal with envy personally?
Yeah, I feel Guan Hui's method is what I do quite often. It's kind of just compassion for everyone's causes and conditions in different contexts. And I think a short question I ask myself is, how can I learn from them? How can their success contribute to the greater good? Yeah, these are the questions I ask myself.
Okay, thank you. Robin, how you deal with envy personally?
I think, but personally, I find the third and the fourth Brahma Vihara quite useful. So I think like the third one says that when we see other people, then we have this wish that may people not lose their source of happiness. So I guess that helps to go and combat the sense of jealousy that this person must not be better than me kind of thing. And then for the fourth one, it says that people are the heads and owners. So so it's something along the lines of what I think Wang Hui mentioned earlier about people starting out with different starting points. So so it's always looking for suffering if we want to go and compare ourselves against other people and setting up ourselves for failure if we don't do a very fair comparison.
Okay. Selvi, any problem with envy in med school?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, a lot. I'm not as well trained as the rest of people who have answered. For me, I struggled quite a bit with envy in medical school, especially with everyone being so competitive, everyone very, very smart and all that. Especially last year, it was
You're
very
one of
tough.
them also, like you're one of them also. Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes the way I tackle it is I will talk to someone and I try to kind of like say out everything that is inside my mind. Is it why am I being envious? And then like then I start to ask myself, is it because I'm not good enough? or is it because I'm not appreciating what I already have? And so sometimes knowing appreciating yourself as well, and like knowing looking at the positivity within yourself, it helps as well. And if it's like in the Dharma, like Buddhas always say that we tackle envy with sympathetic joy for other people, but as someone mentioned, it's very difficult. Still trying, still practicing. Yeah, that's what I try to do as well. Yeah, thank you.
Gerald, how you handle people envious of your good looks?
Oh, that's the first time I heard that. No lah. I mean, like, I totally agree with the rest. It's like what Kwang Hui said, we all start from different starting points. So there's no base point of comparison. And I was just thinking because like what Wing Fai said, yes, sympathetic joy is one of the hardest to actually master. And I personally, is it worth my effort being envious first? So I see it from two different perspectives. The first one, as part of my occupation or part of my profession, to being a doctor, right? It's like if our end goal is to actually to help all humanity, and someone better than me, then I'm actually happy for them, because that guy can help the patient so much better than I can, right? So there's nothing to be envious about because we all have the same end goal, which is to help as many people as possible, right? That's the way I see it, right? And then the other thing is that let's say if it's something outside of you or outside our healthcare, they're like, well, that guy has a nicer car than me. But these things I don't really care, honestly. So it's something that I don't really care about. There's nothing to be envious about. And I also agree with Archbishop the point 3. Envy actually, in our competitive world is actually a pretty good motivation to be better ourselves, I find. But I mean, yeah, there'll be a point where the emotions will spill over. And that's when I think Buddhist training comes in to watch our thoughts and watch our intentions. What's our intention using this envy, right? Yeah, so I guess those are my thoughts about it.
Thank you. Cheng Chuan, how you deal with people envious of what you have? You already have so much already.
No
Don't
lah.
have people,
So well, I mean, I'm still subject to all these negative mind states, law. I mean, right? Jealousy, anger, envious. So I just be aware of a mind state. If it's negative, then be very aware and just drop it. Don't let it get entrenched. Don't let it amplify. Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. Thank you. Rachel?
My camera's not working. So I think for me, I was thinking about it as the rest answer. I think it's contentment. So I attended a talk at Guangmingshan in July by Venerable Damsho. She was talking about FOMO, which is similar concept. So I think one thing I learned from the one-day retreat was that like small practices like being grateful for your meal. So it's a small way to cultivate contentment that hopefully can bring awareness also as a how do you cultivate contentment? So she said, when I eat with Lala, which is thank you. Thank you, Jesus, thank you, Buddha, and thank you, universe, for my rice and my vegetables. And then says when you eat mindfully, it's like the whole universe. I have a lot to be grateful for food that I can sustain me and like for a roof over my head. So I think sometimes it's hard to live in Singapore because like I tell my students, you don't have to compare yourselves, like special needs kids, right, with other students' grades. As long as you try your best, it's fine, but it's hard. So I think just being grateful, you're trying your best. And I think for me, it's every meal is a reminder that, I have all I need. So contentment, yeah, I guess counting my blessings. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Kai Ping, how you deal with envy about your various talents?
Oh no lah. Hello, teacher. Yeah, I think, how do I deal with envy? I think envy itself is a negative emotion, but sometimes I think we can also think of envy in the sense that whether it's a kind of benign for envy, like you want to really aspire to be as good as a person, or is a very malicious kind where you just want to compete, right? So I think we can sort of turn it into a form of positive energy to aspire to be as good as a person. Sort of look at the positive traits, right? If you want to learn or emulate from whoever this person that you're envious with. I think, yeah, and the other thing is I really echo with many things that previously all of you have shared, like having self-contentment, being grateful of what we have, something I always will fall back on whenever I have all these thoughts that arise. I think there's always no end to competition, like, anyway.
Rong Hui, are you around? Okay, Rong Hui in the library. Okay. Charlene, how you deal with envy?
Actually, I think you all mentioned everything already, so I really don't have anything extra to add.
How do you personally deal with envy?
I think I remind myself to be grateful. I try to focus my mind state to what I have instead of what I don't have. To try to reframe my mind when I feel negative emotions, like for example envy, then I will focus on what I have instead. Yeah.
Jikong?
Hi. Yeah, so basically for envy, I mean, I've read this book, which I find is quite a useful guide, because it's called The House of Being Happy. Basically, it's written by this lady called Sonia Lubovitsky. So this 12th house supposedly based on qualitative and observational studies. So first of all, to express gratitude on a daily basis, to cultivate optimism, to avoid overthinking and social comparison, to practice acts of kindness and nurture social relationship, develop strategies for coping, to forgive, and to have some these meditative experiences. So all these, I find that these are useful if I am feeling unhappy or envious or for whatever reason, then there is a suitable strategy to counteract that. So I find that very useful as a very practical way to do so.
Okay, thank you. Hugo, last but not least. Okay, Hugo not there? Well, maybe I summarize most of what you all say is alluded by Archbishop and the Dalai Lama, but it covered by all of you all. So this is a very wise group. But perhaps I like to highlight what this Wan Hui said, which was not quite mentioned in Archbishop and this the Dalai Lama, was that not all of us start from the same place. This reminds me of one of Ajahn Brahm's story during one of the talks when I attended with Ajahn Brahm. He was saying that at that time he was commanding a very big group of audience already. Sometimes his group can reach like 5,000 or so. So he was saying that I can teach very well. You are inspired by me. Ajahn Brahm, he said. You are inspired by me each time when I come and give you all inspired, then that's why you all feel good after for a few weeks. He said, it is not that I am a very superior teacher. I am a very, very good teacher. It's not that I'm a very good teacher. He said this, and then this one sort of blew my mind, his following phrase. He said, it is because I started earlier than all of y'all. And what I understand, it is because I started earlier than all of y'all. That means he did not start in this lifetime as a teacher. This is what I gather from him. He started maybe a few lifetime as a teacher, and he focused on teaching. That's why he is a more effective teacher than most of the other Dharma teachers. Say, hence, nothing to be proud of. That is my humility, and have no envy for me. And I am humbled not because I'm a good teacher. I'm humbled merely because I started earlier than all of you all. Well, so that is like, wow. So that reminds me to be humble, and that reminds me not to be envious. That's Ajahn Brahms. Thank you for your contribution. Coming back, archbishops, between Archbishop and between the Dalai Lama's formula on handling envy, the same line seems to draw true in this comparative religion. Archbishop seems to be attacking a problem which the approach is the disease is already present. That means the emotion is already there. And hence, there would be things like counting your blessings, which one of you all have said, many of you have said, and or using it as a motivation, right? Somebody has it, we motivate to be like them. And part of it is actually is to forgive yourself for having such a negative emotion. And he seems to say that it is natural to have such a negative emotion, and please forgive yourself for that, because these are things we cannot control. So the Christian approach seems to say that these are things that arise, and hence you just have to forgive yourself and accept. Next slide. He also said an approach which is the disease already present. One of the way to approach it is, well, why do I want a house with 7 rooms when there are only 3 of us? If your approach is to live as simply as possible, you do not need to have so many things, right? Correct? And perhaps if you extend this to what we are facing in the world of climate change, the excessive consumption in our society that's leading to climate change. Therefore, if we have less, the problem of climate change can be solved. If all of us here, 7 billion of us, just half of 7 billion of us lead a more monastic life, a simpler life, it will solve the climate change problem very effectively, right? The air condition, the waste, right? This is the Archbishop's approach. The Dalai Lama's approach is more preventive. That means let us not have this feeling of envy arise. Like what Brother Wing Fai said, any emotion that disturbs peace of mind, we must learn not to make it arise. Because like what Wing Fai said, once jealousy arises, it is harmful to friendship, marriage, and a lot of relationship. Once the envy arises, even after that, you try to curb it as a motivation, right? You go and count your other blessings. But the envy, there is a danger of this negative feeling of envy damaging the friendship, the marriage, right? Chinese call it 破镜. What is the word? A broken mirror can never be the same again, right? Next slide. Runway, next slide.
Sorry, give me a minute. I get issued. Okay, can, yes. Sorry.
The Dalai Lama differs from Desmond Tutu. In it, he said, it is a mistake to see negative emotions as the normal states of mind. There lies a very subtle difference. I mean, we can do comparative religion, but if we do comparative religion at its core, there lies the difference. For us, we are the inside people, whereas at the Christian faith, perhaps from this analysis, they are more the outside people, whereby the emotion is already out there already. So there lies, we are more the inner feeling. If we focus on the inner values of the person rather than the material possessions, sometimes this envious feeling tend not to be so negative after all. If we focus on what is important is the experience we gain, the knowledge, and why don't we compare the degree of compassion of this person with us, right? The concern for others. The feeling of envy is not so strong. If you have concern for others, if we develop, not me lah, okay, I'm not so developed. The Dalai Lama said that if you develop compassion, and if you see every sentient beings including your enemy, your number one enemy, your arch rival. He is also every day, he's seeking ways and means to have joy. He has suffering. He has his sob story behind his mistress, his whatever, right? He has his sob story, and he's trying to seek joy for himself and his close ones as well. And you will identify with him, and hence, out of compassion, you will wish him well, that he deserves the right to seek joy as well. And hence, you will rejoice when he achieves something, because you feel his pain also, just as we are seeking pain relief, he's also seeking pain relief. And if we develop this feeling of compassion, we will rejoice when others achieve something. And he said this, Win Fai said that sympathetic joy or mudita is very hard to develop. Okay? But sympathetic joy is the antidote to envy. And perhaps why it is hard to develop is because, at least for me, many of us do not realize that mudita is a natural outgrowth of compassion. If naturally, when you develop compassion for others, you want to relieve others of suffering, naturally you'll be very, very happy that this particular person would achieve something even higher than yourself, because you want him to be relieved of his suffering. Then perhaps if we link mudita to the development of compassion, maybe that is the key to develop mudita, sympathetic joy. I have a problem with that also. I envy feeling, then I will use it as a motivation. This person achieved this, I also want to achieve this, right? When I read this one really strikes me, that mudita is a natural outgrowth of compassion. Don't forget that the Dalai Lama is often seen by his own people as the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. And it is quite interesting that a lot of his talk here, he focuses on compassion. So perhaps he is indeed the representative of compassion. He is indeed the manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Next slide. We now go on to the next question: how to maintain joy in our darkest moment. Easy when things are all hunky-dory, right? Now is 8:40. I think in our darkest moment, I like a question in the audience, but I think a little bit late. So we'll skip that on how these two iconic leaders who have gone through so much, how do they maintain joy in their darkest moment? The Archbishop, he has two things to say. One is that love thy neighbor as you love thyself. This one is quoted this is something quoted very often by the Christians, maybe something resembling to the practice of compassion. Then the second thing he also say, that there is a constant thing about suffering can embitter us or ennoble us, whether we find meaning or not. That is how Archbishop sees it, as in the darkest moment, he sees that there will be something good that will arise out of suffering. The Dalai Lama, very systematic, more systematic, okay? 3 points. One, he said that we must remember that in our darkest moment, words, but it gives us very strong ideas. Just by this phrase, in spite of adversity versus because of adversity. I will find joy in spite of adversity versus I will find joy because of adversity. Okay, there is a great difference, though it seems very subtle. That means despite all your troubles, all your darkest moment, you will still find joy. He said no, in his practice, it is the adversity that gives him meaning in life, that gives him training in life. And of all the tribulations that he go through, out of China, exile, and all the suffering, leaving his home, leaving his family, and it is a training by itself. And with that, he's able to practice the joy, the practice of joy, the practice of compassion more effectively than if he were in his ivory tower of Potala Palace, where he is protected from everything else. Right? So in spite of adversity versus because of adversity, seeing adversity as a form of training. He also quoted the story of Nelson Mandela on Robben Island, whereby being incarcerated there for, I think, about 50 years, Nelson Mandela changed from an arm-bearing revolutionist to revolutionist of non-violence. And perhaps that was able to take the possibility of a civil war out of South Africa during that time. The Dalai Lama quoted a very interesting story of one of the Tibetan monks, his good friend, who was captured by the Chinese and thrown into the Chinese gulag, whereby you got the North Korean way of torture, the Japanese way of torture, and the Chinese innovative way of torture, whereby in cold winter ice, you don't have even slippers to wear. And for 10, 20 years, you are just feeling hungry every day. Finally, he got released and he went to Dharamsala. As he related the story, one of the things that he highlighted to Dalai Lama was that he told the Dalai Lama that at the point when he was being incarcerated, at one point of time, he felt he was in real danger. Then Dalai Lama understood it as in real danger of his life, that his life could have been ended by his captors. He said, no, the real danger is not in real danger of his life. He said he felt he was in real danger of losing compassion for his captors. Whoa! It's like, whoa! It's like, that's damn powerful, right? You're being captured and tortured, and this guy, every day, he's still practicing compassion for the people who are torturing him. And the point that he was losing is the point when he felt the hatred was coming out against his Chinese captors. The point that hatred comes out is the point that he felt he was in real danger. Wow, this is like, this is very inspiring. I hope one day I will achieve it. The trend in Dalai Lama is the trend of self-development. The danger is the danger of us losing our humanity. Archbishop, after hearing this, he added, oh, suffering can embitter us or ennoble us. As long as we find meaning, perhaps in our darkest moment, there lies joy. Next slide. Any more? They met for 1 week, and it ended with them sharing each other's practice. Very interesting to note that the Dalai Lama led the Archbishop to do a meditative session, I think on compassion or loving kindness. Archbishop responded to go through the whole thing. Archbishop invited Dalai Lama, and Dalai Lama followed to go through the communion or the Eucharist, which is very restricted to Christians only. If you are Buddhist, you are not, by right, you are not allowed. But these are the top leaders, but yet they invite each other to do their practice. It's interesting that even the top leaders do not stick to conventions, do not stick to rules. And in the communion, there's one part whereby you're supposed to drink the wine to represent the blood of Christ. The Dalai Lama actually agreed, despite his precept of not taking alcohol, agreed to take the wine. He agreed to take the wine. But of course, he said that he will not allow the taking of the wine to cause him to be drunk. But the representative way of taking wine was that he was just taking a few drops of it. This is the great teacher teaching you that there are no rules, that there are no conventions, there are no absolutism in this world. Doesn't mean it is one way means one way. You break the rules, it is just conventions that is laid down by man himself. So what if you take a few drops of wine for his friend who make all the way to Dharamsala to join in this big project, and he knows that this friend of his is not going to see him thereafter already. Shortly after, Archbishop passed on, right? Therefore, so yes, you cannot take alcohol, but a few drops, does it mean anything? Does not mean anything, right? That's why the Dalai Lama Archbishop, they have surpassed convention. This is the teacher teaching you that we do not necessarily need to stick to conventions. Conventions are for our convenience. Your name is for your convenience, right? These are all conventions. He is quite a manifestation of the practice. Just that Archbishop is also a manifestation of his practice. Next slide. Any more? Last slide, right? Yeah. So after all the 6 days, 7 days, all the talking that we discussed, they came down with the 8 pillars of joy. There are some steps, right? Just like the Noble Eightfold Path. Number one way to have more joy in your life is to change your perspective, a different angle of looking at things, or increase your angle of looking at things. Convert the way you speak from I to we, from I to you. How are you? How shall we do it? Instead of, I think cannot. I want this, I want that. We want this, we shall do this. It's a different perspective. And the human being has evolved to a higher level, partly because of our language. And it's not just language as in communication. The language gives you ideas. Each vocabulary is an idea, right? And with the language, it has brought forth many ideas to fruition, which the non-speaking animals cannot do. And we should take advantage of it. Second, humility, that we are dependent on others. If we feel humbled, like for example, that a lot of our achievements in our life is not just from us, it's maybe from our previous work, that this is not so great as that we feel arrogant about it. With humility, there will be more joy. Of course, humor, throughout the book, you will see, or the movie, you'll see these two iconic leaders are always cackling and laughing. Fourth is acceptance. Accept what you are, what you have. Fifth is forgiveness, which personally on my part, I'm not so easily forgiving one. So that part I have to work on it myself. And number 6 would be gratitude. Happy to be alive. And gratitude not just for the people who love us, who contribute to our success in the Buddhist tradition, and also in Archbishop's experience of his fight against apartheid. Grateful to our greatest enemies because they are our greatest spiritual teachers. Grateful to our enemies because they are our greatest spiritual teachers. Because if we can overcome this, I think the Tao already. Okay? And of course, it's practice in Buddhism, which is practice of compassion, and finally the practice of generosity. So this set is not very Buddhistic or not very Christian, but it is what they agree and they came up with. Okay. Wider perspective. You go through these 8 steps, you see whether each step is applicable to you or not. Whether you are able to make your greatest enemy your greatest spiritual teachers or not. Whether your ability to forgive, whether it's possible. Whether you are humorous enough or not. humility. I think most of us here are humble enough, right? Humble enough to attend my little sharing here. Next slide. If there's anything else, end of slide.
Yeah, no more.
Okay, no more. Okay. Okay, that ends my little bit of sharing. Anybody, anything to contribute? Perhaps we have 10 minutes here. So maybe we can just go through their summary to see whether within your life are you able to practice these three, or it is very hard for you to practice these 8 sets of recommendation by Archbishop and the Dalai Lama. Hui Wen?
For me, humor would be good. Maybe like learn not to take
Which one is hardest for you?
hardest. I think I think humor.
Humor is
Because
hardest.
I think like I can take things like very seriously. So I think it's good to just chill, like just like don't be too how to say, just relax lah, just chill. Yeah. Don't take things so seriously.
Humor is hardest
But
for
I mean,
Humor is hardest for you.
yeah, I think
Forgiveness.
but it's also forgiveness, I think maybe also. Yeah, because maybe I can tend to be quite harsh on myself. So sometimes just like learn to be uh like don't take myself so seriously. I think it's good. And I think
So for hard to forgive yourself, not forgive your enemies.
yeah. Actually, because I realized that like a lot of times I get angry, but it's not because I'm angry at that person. It's just that I feel this emotion, but I'm not angry at that person per se. I just feel angry. Yeah. So um I generally don't really do anything like to get revenge or whatever lah. Yeah, but it's just I realize it's just like sometimes you feel certain ways, like you feel cheated or like you feel like humiliated from certain person, but it doesn't mean that I want to hurt that person. So it's just like finding um ways to overcome that emotion.
Okay, thank you. Guan Hui, which one is hardest for you, Guan Hui?
I think for me is acceptance and forgiveness. Like I feel, for example, if something bad happens to me, sometimes I just I take a lot of time to like accept something and like finally let go. And like to me, like if like I will take a lot of time, and it's like it's like very painful like that. So I still need to work on like learning how to like accept things better. And then forgiveness also, I think I like Hui, when I also have issues forgiving like myself. Normally other people, unless it's something really major, after a while I kind of just completely forget about it. So like that one is fine. But like I feel it like sometimes it's a bit more difficult to forgive myself if I make a very big mistake. Then I just feel that it's very difficult to forgive myself, more so than forgiving other people. Yeah.
You all are very good people. Okay. Wing Fai, which one most difficult? All very easy for you.
Certainly not. I think the same with everyone else. I think acceptance and forgiveness, especially of oneself, is one of the big challenges. To some extent, also generosity, could be more generous. Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect. So, yeah.
Robin, which one hardest for you?
I guess I'm also quite similar to the others before me, when they say that they actually have they actually find it difficult to forgive themselves for things. So I guess I'm also more towards I also trying to find acceptance a bit hard in the sense that I probably cannot accept that I have negative responses when bad things happen to me, kind of thing. So yeah, I guess I can be quite harsh to myself in that sense.
You're all very nice people. Selvi, which is the hardest for you to do?
For me, it's actually gratitude, cause I feel like it's the easiest thing to do, but we often forget to do it because it's very easy to do. Like yeah.
Hmm.
And of course I'm okay with forgiveness actually. Yeah. Yeah, more on gratitude actually. Thank you.
Okay. Gerald, all very easy for you to do, right?
No, not really.
Which is the
If I
hardest?
must say, hardest, I'll say between acceptance and perhaps humility sometimes. Because I find that sometimes humility can be very subtle, you know. You think you're a very humble person, but you know, sometimes someone might say something that triggers you so easily. For example, like sometimes if like the one of the staff nurses suddenly call me by first name, for example, they say like, "Oh, Gerald, then like what, the moment you know that you're irritated, you know there's something wrong, you know. Right. That means you are watching your own thoughts, say, why would I feel irritated by someone just calling me by first name? Didn't put the doctor in front, you know. Right. How could they? Right. But then I actually realized that, hey, that's my ego talking. That's my ego talking. Right. And so sometimes he might miss it. And sometimes I might even not even notice it, or I just feel irritated for no reason. Yeah. So I think humility is something that's quite underrated. Uh and I mean, to be truly humble is very, very difficult. I find that sometimes cannot accept my own flaws, and even sometimes I cannot accept that I'm growing older. Or that. It's a bit difficult, right? Because like, how come I must run 2.4 at this timing? I used to do that, you know.
Jula type already, okay? Yeah, suddenly become Jula jet.
Yeah, yeah. Impermanence. Yeah, lor. So I think just these two mostly, the acceptance and humility.
Okay, thank you. Cheng Chuan, which one hardest for you?
Well, I'm working at everyone, but yeah, interesting to know that actually many share my main issue is forgiving myself. Mistake I made years ago, I still remember, you know. So that's something that I got to learn. But yeah.
I find we have trouble forgiving and says all very nice people in my books. Rong Hui in the library. Hugo, which is the hardest for you?
Sorry. Think humility and acceptance.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hui Hui, which is the hardest for you? Wider perspective. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing. I learned a lot from you and about you. Okay. Especially about you. All right. Thank you for listening to me. If there's nothing else, shall we do our closing ceremony? Wan Hui?
Okay, can. I will load up the slides. Okay. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can. Okay, so closing, closing ceremony, rectification of faults, the evil which I have heaped up through my ignorance as protectors. May the leaders receive this kindly, just as it is with its many faults. What is not good, O protectors, I shall not do again. Rejoicing in merit, I rejoice in delight in the good done by all beings, through which they obtain rest, with the end of suffering. May those who have suffered be happy. I rejoice in the release of beings from the sufferings of the rounds of existence. I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva and the Buddha who are protectors. I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment and the teaching, those oceans which bring happiness to all beings and are the abode of welfare of all beings. Transference of merit, may the merit gained in my 19 tasks go to the elevation of the suffering of all beings, my personality throughout my existences, my possessions, and my merit in all three ways. I give up without regard to myself for the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements are serviceable in many ways to the infinite number of beings inhabiting limitless space, so may I become that which maintains all beings situated throughout space, so long as all have not attained to peace. Blessings. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Buddhas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Dharmas, may all happiness be yours. May all blessings be yours. May all gods protect you. By the power of all the Sangha, may all happiness be yours. Evening reflection. Even as the night darkens the green earth, the wheel turns. Death follows birth. Strive through the night with every breath, that I may awake past day, past death.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending MDC, and of course, thank you, Brother Charles, for sharing a very interesting book and very interesting perspectives.
No photo session?
Oh yeah, okay. Need to do photo. Wait,
Session.
I'm not
SOP.
very good at. Yeah, very not good at Zoom. Give me a minute. Let me try and.
And stop share first.
Oh, I need to stop share first. No wonder. Okay.
Then how to screenshot.
Wait. Wait, give me a minute.
Okay.
How do you go to the screen where there's everyone there?
Yeah, wait,
Gallery,
we're in the screen.
gallery view.
Okay, wait. I think